Sometimes I wonder, where did Christianity go so wrong? Because truly, like, Jesus's teachings were so beautiful. Loving your neighbor, compassion, forgiveness, good works, the kingdom being within you, God being this loving father, all of this beauty. And yet the version we have today is fixated on blood and sacrifice and atonement and sin. And honestly, all this pagan ritual sounding bullshit that I don't get it. I don't get where it went wrong. And then I remember, oh yeah, Paul is where it went wrong. You have no idea how many Christians I have heard say, well, you can't have Jesus without Paul. And you guys are absolutely insane. Like, this is probably the false prophet that he warned about that would come in his name and distort the teachings. You guys think it's, coming now. It's like, no, he was speaking to his disciples in that time period. Paul started teaching his gospel, which was what he called it, his gospel, 20 or more years after Jesus died, right? So the movement was alive and well for 20 plus years before Paul came along. And I'm like 24, so that's a long time. That's like my entire life for me to know one version of Christianity before some guy comes along, had some hallucinations, claims that he has the true message of Jesus more than his own brother James, more than the disciples who knew him in real life. It's honestly crazy. I've been reading this book called Paul and Jesus by James Tabor, who has been studying this topic for like 40 something years, probably even more now. And he makes an interesting point that we need to read the New Testament backwards, where we need to start with Paul's teachings that go back to, I think, 50 AD or even maybe 30 AD. I don't know. And then you can see how his theology seeped into the canonical gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, because they are from around 60 AD. And you see all the similarities. It's not meant to be read in the order that it is, because Paul heavily influenced what was included in the Bible. Because again, Christianity wanted one unified, theology, doctrine, and text to live by, and that wasn't what was going on. There was many Christianities in those first 100 years after Jesus died. And again, just pointing out that before he came along to distort everything, there was a version of Christianity out there that had nothing to do with his view, his revelations, and it was much more aligned with what Jesus actually taught. But unfortunately, Paul had ties with Roman people, he was a Roman citizen, and he had connections, and I think for whatever reason they pushed his Gentile teachings to the forefront and kind of used those in the New Testament. And it's really unfortunate because we really don't know what those early Christians really believed. They wiped them out. They pretty much killed them because, again, they wanted unity, and they destroyed their teachings, they destroyed their texts, and just pushed what aligned with their narrative. And Paul just happened to be the tool, the plant that they used to create that version of Christianity. And honestly, 6 out of 13 of the epistles or letters that are attributed to Paul weren't even written by Paul. So obviously people were just slapping his name. He became this authority figure of a completely different message. And anything that aligned with that message was like, oh yeah, that's Pauline. So we are either living in a time of churchianity or Paulianity, but it's definitely not Christianity, unfortunately.